Jason Archer winced as another alarm blared through the cockpit. The emergency landing protocols were failing one by one, and the small rescue vessel shuddered violently as it breached the atmosphere of the barren planet below. A quick glance at the temperature gauge made his stomach sink, minus 70 degrees Celsius outside and dropping. This wasn't just an emergency landing. It was potentially a death sentence. "Come on, hold together," he muttered, wrestling with the controls as the ship plummeted through dense cloud cover. The vessel had taken heavy damage while navigating the asteroid field, a risky move he'd made to escape the pirate vessels that had ambushed him near the Cygnus outpost. Now he was paying the price. The ground rushed up to meet him, a desolate landscape of ice and jagged rock formations. Jason braced for impact, closing his eyes as the rescue ship slammed into the frozen terrain, skidding nearly half a kilometer before coming to a grinding halt. The impact threw him forward against his restraints, and a sharp pain exploded across his chest. Probably a cracked rib, but he was alive. After the initial shock subsided, Jason took stock of his situation. The ship's main systems were offline, including long-range communications. Life support was functioning at minimal capacity, but the damage to the hull meant it wouldn't last through the night. Outside, a howling blizzard was picking up intensity, with winds that could strip flesh from bone in minutes. Stranded on an ice planet with minimal supplies, Jason mumbled as he rummaged through the emergency kit. "Not exactly how I planned to end my career." The kit contained basic medical supplies, a few ration bars, a portable heater with maybe 6 hours of charge, and a thin thermal blanket that would be woefully inadequate against the extreme cold. He activated his personal locator beacon, though he knew rescue would take days at best. This planet, designated only as XB 742, was far from any established trade routes or colonies. It was the perfect place to die unnoticed. As night began to fall, the temperature plummeted further. Jason huddled in the remains of the cockpit, shivering violently despite wearing every layer of clothing he had. The portable heater was already losing power, and frost was forming on the inside of the viewport. He was calculating his rapidly diminishing survival odds when a shadow passed outside. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light or perhaps the beginning of hallucinations from a cold. But then it appeared again, a humanoid figure trudging through the snow. Jason blinked in disbelief. Nothing was supposed to live on this frozen hell. Curiosity overcame caution. He forced the emergency hatch open and shouted into the howling wind. The figure paused, then changed direction, heading toward his ship. As it drew closer, Jason realized it wasn't human, not quite. The visitor was female in form, but clearly not human. Her skin was a pale blue that seemed almost luminescent against the white backdrop of snow. Silver hair whipped around her face in the wind, and when she looked up at him, her eyes were a striking amber that seemed to glow from within. She wore some kind of environmental suit that conformed perfectly to her body, made of a material Jason didn't recognize. "Are you injured?" Her voice was clear despite the howling wind, with an accent he couldn't place. Jason shook his head, then winced at the pain in his ribs. "Just a cracked rib, I think." "Are you? Do you live here?" The alien woman's lips curved in what might have been amusement. "No, I crashed here just like you. 2 solar rotations ago." She gestured to a ridge about a kilometer away. "My ship is more intact than yours. It has shelter." Jason hesitated. Following a strange alien to his second location went against every security protocol in the book. But staying meant certain death from exposure. "I'm Jason Archer, rescue pilot from Earth Central Command." "Yuria," she replied simply, "science officer of the Theoran Exploration Fleet." She extended a slender, 4-fingered hand. "We should go now. The temperature will drop another 30 degrees when the second moon rises." The journey to Yuria's ship was agonizing. The wind cut through Jason's clothing like knives, and each step through the knee-deep snow sent fresh pain through his injured ribs. By the time they reached the sleek, silver craft half buried in the snowdrift, Jason was barely conscious, his extremities numb and his vision narrowing. Inside, Yuria's ship was marginally warmer, but still dangerously cold. The crash had damaged her primary power systems, leaving only emergency lighting and minimal life support functional. Your body temperature is dangerously low, Yuria observed clinically, helping Jason into what appeared to be a small medical bay. Your species is not adapted to these conditions. And yours is? Jason managed through chattering teeth. Better than. Yours, but not enough. Yuria rummaged through a storage compartment and pulled out what looked like a silver sleeping bag. This is a thermal cocoon. It's designed to preserve body heat in extreme conditions. She spread it out on the floor of the medical bay. Remove your outer layers. They're wet from the snow and will only make you colder. Despite his situation, Jason felt a flush of embarrassment. I'll be fine with them on. Yuri's amber eyes narrowed. Your human modesty is irrelevant in this situation. The thermal cocoon works by reflecting and amplifying body heat. It works better with skin contact. When Jason still hesitated, she added, it's also designed for single occupancy, but we'll need to share. The combined body heat will be more efficient. Share. Jason repeated weakly. Yes, we will both freeze otherwise. Her tone was matter of fact. Your species' insistence on maintaining artificial social boundaries, even in survival situations, is baffling. Too cold to argue further, Jason reluctantly shed his outer garments down to his thermal undersuit. Yuria did the same, removing the outer shell of her environmental suit to reveal a form-fitting bodysuit beneath. If the situation hadn't been so dire, Jason might have been more uncomfortable with the alien woman's casual approach to their forced intimacy. The thermal cocoon was indeed designed for one person, making it a very tight fit for two. As Yuria sealed them inside, Jason found himself pressed against her, acutely aware of the strange texture of her skin where it touched his face and hands. Smooth like polished stone, but somehow warm. Your heart rate has increased, Yuria observed. Are you in pain? Just uncomfortable, Jason admitted. On Earth, we don't usually get this close to someone we've just met. Yuria made a sound that might have been a laugh. On Theora, we don't usually get this close to other species at all. But survival supersedes cultural norms. Despite his discomfort, Jason had to admit the thermal cocoon was working. His violent shivering gradually subsided as their combined body heat reflected back from the material. The sensation was strange, being so close to someone so alien, but not entirely unpleasant. There was an unfamiliar scent to her, like ozone and something vaguely floral. Try to sleep, Yuria suggested. Your body needs to recover. How do I know you won't kill me in my sleep? Jason asked, only half joking. In the dim light, he saw her lips curve slightly. If I wanted you dead, human, I would have left you in your ship. It was hard to argue with that logic. Exhaustion soon overcame his wariness, and Jason drifted into an uneasy sleep, acutely aware of the alien woman's steady breathing beside him. Jason awoke to the strange sensation of warmth, a stark contrast to the bone-chilling cold he'd endured the day before. For a moment, he thought he was back on his station, that the crash had been a particularly vivid nightmare. Then he felt movement beside him and opened his eyes to find himself face to face with Yuria, her amber eyes studying him with unabashed curiosity. Your sleep patterns are fascinating, she commented. You went through multiple REM cycles and talked several times. Jason quickly sat up, or tried to. The confined space of the thermal cocoon made sudden movements difficult. I talked. What'd I say? Nothing coherent. Mostly sounds and fragmented words. Yuria unsealed the cocoon, allowing cooler air to rush in. It was still cold in the ship, but nowhere near the lethal temperatures of the night before. Your body temperature has stabilized, but your injured ribs need attention. She helped him sit up and retrieved what looked like a small medical device from a nearby compartment. This will accelerate the healing of the bone fracture. It won't be completely healed, but it should reduce the pain. Jason eyed the device warily. You're a doctor? Science officer, she corrected. But I have extensive training in xenobiology. Your human physiology is not so different from Theoran in basic structure. That's reassuring, I guess, Jason said as she placed the device against his side. There was a warm, tingling sensation, followed by blessed relief as the pain in his ribs diminished. "You appear surprised by the similarity between our species," Yuria observed, putting the device away. "Has your planet not had contact with the Galactic Alliance yet?" Jason blinked in confusion. Galactic Alliance? Earth has established trade relations with a few neighboring systems, but nothing called an alliance. We're still relatively new to interstellar travel. A look of genuine surprise crossed Yuria's features. "Interesting. Your technology level suggested. Never mind." She moved to what appeared to be a food preparation area. "You should eat. I have analyzed your ration bars and can synthesize something compatible with your digestive system." As Yuria prepared some kind of nutrient paste that smelled better than it looked, Jason took the opportunity to examine the ship. It was clearly more advanced than anything in Earth's fleet, sleeker, more efficient in its design. The control panels featured a script he couldn't read, with holographic displays that seemed to respond to Yuria's movements even from across the room. "Your ship," he said. "It's not like anything I've seen before. How did you end up crashing here?" Yuria paused, her back to him. "I was pursued. My mission was complicated by unexpected factors." She turned and handed him a bowl of the steaming paste. "Eat this. We need to discuss our situation." The food was bland but filling, with a texture similar to oatmeal. As Jason ate, Yuria brought up a holographic display of the planet's surface. "We are here," she said, indicating a blinking light. "The planet experiences extreme temperature fluctuations due to its irregular orbit. A severe magnetic storm is approaching from this direction." She pointed to a swirling mass on the display. "It will hit in approximately 36 hours and last for 7 days. If we're not off planet by then, our chances of survival drop significantly." "Can your ship be repaired?" Jason asked. Yuria shook her head. "The primary drive is damaged beyond repair with available resources. Your ship, worse shape than yours. No chance of getting it airborne again. Then our only option is to reach higher ground and boost our emergency signal." She pointed to an elevated plateau several kilometers away. "This ridge should provide sufficient elevation to penetrate the ionosphere with a distress beacon. It's our best chance of being detected by passing ships." Jason nodded slowly. "And what about the unexpected factors that complicated your mission? Are they still looking for you?" Yuria's expression became guarded. "Possibly, but they would have no reason to search this planet. Our crash here was random." Something in her tone suggested this wasn't entirely true, but Jason didn't press. "We should gather supplies and leave soon," she continued. "The daylight hours on this planet are brief, and we need to reach the ridge before the next nightfall." As they packed survival equipment and the precious thermal cocoon, Jason couldn't help but notice how Yuria kept one small, cylindrical device close at all times, tucked securely in an inner pocket of her suit. When she caught him looking, her expression hardened. "It's a scientific instrument," she said simply. "Crucial to my mission." "What kind of science requires you to be chased across space?" Jason asked. For a moment, Yuria appeared conflicted, as if weighing how much to reveal. "The kind that changes perceptions," she finally said. "I was sent to collect data, but what I discovered was politically sensitive." Before Jason could question her further, a low, rumbling sound vibrated through the ship. Both of them froze. "What was that?" Jason whispered. Yuria moved quickly to the viewport, her expression grim. "Void hunters. They shouldn't be this far from their usual territory." Jason joined her at the window. Outside, moving across the snow with surprising speed for its size, was a creature that defied easy description. It resembled a massive wolf in basic structure, but with 6 limbs and a body covered in what looked like overlapping plates of ice. Its head housed multiple eyes that glowed with an eerie blue light. "What the hell is that thing?" "A predator native to systems with extreme cold," Yuria explained, already gathering their pack supplies. "They hunt using thermal detection. Our ship's residual heat signatures must have attracted it. Can get inside. Eventually, their claws can penetrate most standard hull materials given enough time." She handed Jason a pack. "We need to leave. Now, the plateau is our only option." "In this cold?" with that thing out there. The alternative is waiting for it to break in. Yuria checked a small device on her wrist. The temperature is currently at its daily peak. We have a 4-hour window before it drops to lethal levels again. The Void Hunter won't attack immediately. It prefers to wear down its prey. With no better options, Jason agreed. They donned their environmental suits, Yuria helping Jason adjust his for better insulation. As she worked, her fingers occasionally brushed against his skin, sending an unexpected warmth through him that had nothing to do with temperature regulation. Your pulse is elevated again, she noted clinically. Fear response. Something like that, Jason muttered, avoiding her inquisitive gaze. They exited through an emergency hatch on the opposite side from where the creature prowled. The landscape outside was blindingly white under twin suns. The wind slightly less brutal than the previous day, but still harsh enough to steal breath. The plateau Yuria had identified rose in the distance, a dark smudge against the white. Horizon. Stay close, Yuria instructed. The Void Hunter may circle around if it detects our heat signatures. They moved as quickly as the deep snow would allow, each step requiring significant effort. Jason's ribs, though improved by Yuria's medical device, still ached with every labored breath. After about an hour of trudging, he glanced back and felt his blood freeze, not from the cold, but from the sight of the Void Hunter tracking their path, its massive form moving with deliberate patience behind them. Yuria, he warned quietly. She didn't look back. I know. Keep moving. It's testing us, learning our patterns. The next 2 hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the sound of their breathing and the crunch of snow beneath their boots. The Void Hunter maintained its distance, sometimes disappearing from view only to reappear closer, forcing them to change direction. It was hurting them, Jason realized, a predatory tactic as old as time itself. They were less than a kilometer from the base of the plateau when the creature finally made its move. With shocking speed, it circled wide and then charged directly toward them, its 6 limbs propelling it across the snow like a missile. Run! Yuria shouted, pushing Jason toward a cluster of ice formations ahead. They sprinted through the deep snow, lungs burning in the frigid air. Jason could hear the creature gaining on them with each passing second. Just as they reached the ice formations, Yuria stumbled, her foot breaking through a hidden crevasse. She cried out in pain as her leg twisted beneath her. Without thinking, Jason turned back, grabbing her arm and pulling her up. The Void Hunter was less than 20 meters away now, its maw opening to reveal rows of crystalline teeth. The device in your pocket, Jason gasped. You said it was scientific. Can it help us? Yuria's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in determination. She pulled out the cylindrical object, twisting it quickly. The device extended, revealing intricate patterns of light along its surface. It's not fully calibrated, she warned. Stand behind me. As the Void Hunter leaped toward them, Yuria pointed the device and activated it. A pulse of energy, not quite visible but somehow perceptible, emanated from a cylinder. The creature froze mid-air, its multiple eyes blinking rapidly as if confused. It landed heavily in the snow, shaking its massive head before backing away, making strange, distressed sounds. It worked. Jason breathed in amazement. Partially, Yuria corrected, grimacing as she tested weight on her injured ankle. The resonance disruptor affected its neural pathways temporarily. It will recover soon. We need to reach the plateau. Resonance disruptor? That doesn't sound like a scientific instrument for collecting data. Yuria met his gaze steadily. It's both. And right now, it's the only thing keeping us alive. She tried to take a step and nearly collapsed. My ankle is fractured. You should continue to the plateau alone. Not happening, Jason said firmly, wrapping an arm around her waist. We both go, or neither of us does. A look of genuine surprise crossed Yuria's features. Most species prioritize self-preservation over helping non-kin. Yeah, well, humans are complicated. Jason adjusted his grip to better support her weight. Besides, you saved me last night. Consider us even. They made slow progress toward the plateau, Yuria leaning heavily against Jason. The Void Hunter had retreated to a distance, but continued to follow, waiting for the disruptor's effects to wear off. By the time they reached the base of the plateau, the temperature was beginning to drop again, and the larger of the twin suns was sinking toward the horizon. The ascent was treacherous, a combination of ice-slick rock and deep snow drifts. Yuria's injury made each step a challenge, and Jason's own strength was waning after hours of fighting the elements. They were about halfway up when the Void Hunter apparently decided they were vulnerable enough to attack again. It began scaling the plateau with disturbing agility, its claws finding purchase where their boots slipped. "We won't make it to the top," Yuria said, her voice tight with pain and exhaustion. Jason spotted a narrow crevice in the rock face just above them. "There, we can wedge ourselves in and use the disruptor again." With the last of their energy, they climbed to the crevice and squeezed inside. It was barely large enough for both of them, forcing them to press tightly together. The Void Hunter reached their position moments later, its massive paws scrabbling at the opening, unable to fit its bulk inside. Yuria activated the resonance disruptor again, this time holding it against the rock wall. Instead of targeting the creature directly, the device sent vibrations through the stone, causing a minor avalanche that temporarily buried the Void Hunter in snow and ice fragments. Its frustrated roars echoed as it dug itself out. "That was clever," Yuria acknowledged. "But the disruptor's power is limited. It needs to properly calibrate to be fully effective." Night was falling rapidly, and with it, the temperature plummeted. Inside their small shelter, protected somewhat from the wind, but not the cold, Jason could already feel the deadly chill returning to his extremities. "We need the thermal cocoon," he said, reaching for his pack. The space was too confined for them to properly set up the cocoon, but they managed to wrap it around themselves as best they could. Once again, Jason found himself in intimate proximity to the alien woman, her breath warm against his neck. "Your solution bought us time," Yuria said quietly, "but the Void Hunter is patient. It will wait for us to emerge, or for the cold to weaken us. Then we'll have to find another solution in the morning." Jason shifted slightly, trying to find a more comfortable position without putting pressure on her injured ankle. "What's the real story with that device of yours? And don't say it's just a scientific instrument." In the dim light, filtering through the crevice opening, Yuria's expression was unreadable for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. "The resonance disruptor is based on technology discovered in ancient ruins on a moon orbiting Theora. My people have been studying it for generations, but its full potential remained theoretical until recently." "What kind of potential?" "It was designed to interface with specific neural patterns. The theory suggests it was created by an advanced civilization that predates both Theans and humans, possibly our common ancestors." Jason blinked in surprise. "Common ancestors? That can't be right. Humans evolved on Earth. So we were taught about Theorans evolving on Theora," Yuria said. "But the genetic evidence suggests otherwise. There are too many similarities in our base genetic code to be coincidental. Similarities that don't exist with any other sentient species in known space. If that's true, why isn't it common knowledge?" Yuria's expression darkened. "Because certain factions within the Galactic Alliance fear what it might mean. If humans and Theorans share ancestry, it challenges the power structure of the Alliance, which has kept human worlds isolated as developing species while Theorans and other established species dominate. And you discovered proof of this." "I found more than proof. I found evidence that there exists a biological resonance between our species, a compatibility that makes the ancient technology fully operational." She held up the cylindrical device. When fully activated, this disruptor could potentially access Alliance communication networks, broadcast the truth to all worlds simultaneously. "Which is why you were being chased," Jason concluded. "They want to stop the information from getting out." Yuria nodded. "A faction within the Theoran Science Council discovered what I was researching. They sent agents to confiscate my findings and the disruptor. I managed to escape with the device, but my ship was damaged in the pursuit. Whatever Jason might have said in response was cut short by a new sound, the distant but distinctive hum of engines. Both of them tensed, listening intently as the sound grew closer. "A ship," Jason whispered. "Could it be rescue? Or it could be those pursuing me," Yuria cautioned. "We should remain hidden until we know." They waited in tense silence as the ship, clearly larger than either of their crashed vessels, descended somewhere on the plateau above them. The Void Hunter's roars had stopped, likely scared off by the new arrival. After nearly an hour, they heard voices and the crunch of boots on snow approaching their hiding place. A beam of light swept across the opening of their crevice. Life signs detected in that rock formation, a voice called out, "Human," with an accent Jason recognized from the outer colonies. "Proceed with caution," another voice responded. "Target is considered dangerous." Jason and Yuria exchanged glances. "They're looking for you," he whispered. Yuria nodded grimly. "The Alliance must have tracked my ship's emergency beacon." "What do we do?" She hesitated, then pressed the resonance disruptor into his hand. "Take this. If I'm captured, they'll search me immediately. You're an unknown factor. They might not search you as thoroughly." "I'm not letting them take you," Jason protested. "You may not have a choice. But listen carefully. The disruptor needs to complete its calibration process. It requires a resonance bond between a human and Theoran to fully activate." "A resonance bond? What does that mean?" Before Yuria could explain, a voice called directly into their hiding place. "We know you're in there. Come out with your hands visible. This is Captain Mercer of the Alliance Security Force." Yuri's expression hardened. "They're not just going to arrest me. That faction wants the disruptor destroyed and all evidence buried. If they take me, the truth dies too." Jason made a split-second decision. "Then we don't let them take you." He tucked the disruptor securely inside his suit. "Follow my lead." They emerged slowly from the crevice, hands raised. 6 armed figures in environmental suits surrounded them, weapons trained on Yuria. Their leader, a tall human with a scarred face, stepped forward. "Science Officer Yuria, you are under arrest for theft of classified technology and espionage against the Alliance." "She hasn't committed any crime," Jason interjected. "We're both crash survivors in need of medical attention." Captain Mercer turned his attention to Jason, eyes narrowing. "And you are?" "Jason Archer, rescue pilot from Earth Central Command. I crashed here yesterday while escaping pirate vessels." This much, at least, was true. "An Earther?" Mercer looked surprised, then suspicious. "Earth has no official contact with the Alliance. What are you doing in this sector?" "I was on a rescue mission when my ship was attacked. I had to make an emergency jump that brought me here." Jason gestured to Yuria. "We both crashed on this planet by coincidence. We've been helping each other survive." One of the other officers, a non-human with features similar to Yuria's but with darker blue skin, spoke up. "Captain, scans show the human is injured but stable. The Theoran has a fractured ankle and mild hypothermia." Mercer considered this information. "Take them both to the ship for questioning. Secure them separately." As they were led up the plateau toward the waiting ship, a sleek, gunmetal gray vessel with Alliance insignia, Jason managed to whisper to Yuria, "What did you mean by resonance bond?" Her amber eyes met his briefly. "The disruptor responds to the neural synchronization between compatible species. Our shared genetic ancestry makes humans and Theorans ideal candidates, but the bond must be strengthened." "Ow!" Prolonged physical contact initiates the process. "It began last night in the thermal cocoon." Her voice dropped even lower. "Complete resonance requires deeper connection, a merging of bioelectric fields that only occurs during moments of intense emotional or physical synchronization." Before Jason could ask for clarification, they were separated and led to different sections of the ship. His last glimpse of Yuria was of her being escorted away by 2 guards, her expression resolute despite her injured ankle. The holding cell they placed Jason in was small but comfortable, clearly designed for temporary detention rather than punishment. A medic examined his ribs, applied a more advanced version of the healing device Yuria had used, and left him with a nutrient pack and water. No one asked him any questions, which struck him as odd. Either they didn't consider him important, or they were waiting for someone with higher authority to arrive. After what felt like hours, the door to his cell slid open. Captain Mercer entered, accompanied by a tall, thin Theoran male wearing elaborate robes that marked him as some kind of official. "This is Counselor Vex of the Theoran Science Council," Mercer introduced. "He has questions for you." The Theoran studied Jason with cold, calculating eyes, the same amber shade as Uria's, but lacking her warmth. "Human," Vex began, his accent more pronounced than Uria's. "Your presence here is unexpected. Explain your relationship with the criminal Uria." "She's not a criminal," Jason replied evenly. "She's a scientist who crashed on the same planet I did. We helped each other survive." "And did she share with you the nature of the device she stole?" Jason kept his expression neutral. "She mentioned something about a scientific instrument for collecting data. Beyond that, we were more concerned with not freezing to death or being eaten by that six-legged monster." Vex's eyes narrowed. "The Void Hunter. Yes, an unfortunate native species. But I find it curious that you both survived such a predator without weapons." "Luck and a well-timed avalanche," Jason said with a shrug that sent a twinge through his healing ribs. "Search him again," Vex ordered suddenly. "More thoroughly this time." Mercer frowned. "We already scanned him for weapons, and the device wouldn't register as a conventional weapon," Vex snapped. "Search him. Now." Before the captain could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. A voice over the intercom announced, "Security breach in detention level B. All personnel to emergency stations." Vex's expression twisted with fury. "She's escaped. Find her, and keep this human secured." They rushed from the cell, leaving Jason alone once more. Minutes later, the ship lurched violently, as if hit by something. The lights flickered, and the door to his cell suddenly slid open. Uria stood in the corridor, breathing hard, a small device in her hand that was clearly used to override the lock. "We don't have much time," she said. "I disabled their internal sensors, but it won't last." Jason quickly joined her in the corridor. "What's the plan?" "Get to the shuttle bay. They have smaller craft we can commandeer." She handed him a tablet-like device. "I accessed their secure database before they detected me. Proof of everything I told you, genetic analyses, historical records, documentation of the cover-up." As they navigated the corridors, avoiding security teams responding to the alarms, Jason glanced at the information on the tablet. The evidence was overwhelming. Detailed genetic comparisons showing the improbable similarities between human and Theoran DNA, classified historical accounts of joint colonies that had been deliberately separated and their shared history erased, and records of an ancient civilization that had apparently seeded both their species across multiple star systems. "This is incredible," Jason murmured as they ducked into a maintenance shaft to avoid a patrol. "Why would they hide this?" "Power," Urias said simply. "The Alliance was founded on the principle that some species were more advanced than others. Humans were classified as a developing species, restricted from full Alliance membership and access to advanced technology. If it became known that humans and Theorans share ancestry, that classification becomes impossible to maintain." They emerged near the shuttle bay, but their path was blocked by 4 armed guards. Before Jason could suggest a diversion, Uria pulled out the resonance disruptor. "It's not fully calibrated yet," she warned, "but it might create enough confusion for us to get past." When she activated the device, its effect was different from before. Instead of the targeted pulse she'd used against the Void Hunter, this was a wave of disorienting energy that made the guards visibly dizzy and confused. As they stumbled, clutching their heads, Jason and Uria sprinted past them into the shuttle bay. They quickly located a small transport vessel with minimal security locks. Uria's technical expertise made short work of the launch protocols, and within minutes, they were powering up the engines. "They're locking down the bay doors," Jason warned, looking at the control panel. Uria worked furiously at the controls. "The disruptor. Use it on the main console there." She pointed to a station near the bay doors. "Focus it directly on the interface." Jason aimed the cylindrical device at the console and activated it. For a moment, Nothing happened. Then the ship's system seemed to recognize the disruptor's signal, responding to it as if to an authorized command. The bay doors began to open. "It's working," Jason exclaimed. "Partial calibration is sufficient for basic electronic interfaces," Yuria explained as she guided their stolen shuttle toward the opening doors. "But to access the Alliance's central communication network, to broadcast the truth to all worlds simultaneously, we need full activation." They burst from the bay just as security forces entered, weapons firing. The shuttle took a few hits, but remained functional as Yuria piloted it away from the larger ship and into the planet's atmosphere. "They'll pursue us," she said grimly. "And this shuttle isn't designed for long-range travel. So where do we go?" Yuria brought up a star chart on the display. "There's a trading outpost in a neighboring system. Independent, not aligned with the Alliance. We can find passage from there to Earth or somewhere else beyond their immediate reach." "And then what? How do we activate the disruptor fully?" Yuria's amber eyes met his. "The resonance bond requires complete synchronization between a human and Theoran. The thermal cocoon began the process, but it needs to be deepened." Understanding dawned on Jason. "You mean physical intimacy," she confirmed, her tone clinical but with a hint of something else. The ancient technology was designed to respond to the merging of bioelectric fields that occurs during such connections. It's why the Alliance has suppressed any suggestion of compatibility between our species. They fear not just the truth of our shared ancestry, but the power that could come from our reunion. Before Jason could respond, the shuttle shook violently. On the rear sensors, the Alliance ship was closing fast, weapons locked on. "We can't outrun them," Yuria said, her voice tight with tension. "And they'll disable rather than destroy us. They want the disruptor intact." Jason looked at the device in his hand, then at Yuria. "Then we activate it now. Complete the resonance bond. Here, while being pursued, you said it requires intense emotional synchronization. I'd say being shot at qualifies as emotionally intense." Despite the danger, Jason managed a wry smile. "Unless you have a better idea?" Yuria hesitated only briefly before setting the shuttle on autopilot. "The resonance is unpredictable. No one has successfully completed it in recorded history. Then we'll make history." She moved closer to him, taking the disruptor and placing it between them. "The process requires physical contact and focused intent. Our neural patterns must align." Another blast rocked the shuttle. Warning lights flashed across the console. "We don't have much time," Yuria said, her voice urgent but steady. "The connection requires trust and openness. Our minds must be in harmony." Jason reached out, taking her hands in his. The disruptor between their palms began to glow faintly, responding to their touch. "Tell me what to do." "Focus on me," she instructed. "Not just my physical form, but who I am. What you've learned about me. What you feel when we're connected." Their eyes locked, amber meeting blue, and Jason found himself thinking about everything that had happened since their first meeting. The shared warmth in the thermal cocoon, the way they'd worked together to survive, the trust that had formed between them despite their differences. He thought about the revelation of their shared ancestry, the possibility that their meeting wasn't just chance, but something more profound. The shuttle shuddered again as another blast struck. The Alliance ship was closing fast. "It's not enough," Yuria whispered, frustration evident in her voice. "The resonance needs deeper connection." Acting on instinct, Jason leaned forward and pressed his lips to hers. For a heartbeat, Yuria stiffened in surprise. Then she responded, her lips softening against his, her free hand moving to the back of his neck. The kiss deepened, and with it came a strange sensation, as if boundaries between them were dissolving. Jason could feel her emotions flowing into him. Her determination, her fear, her hope, and beneath it all, a growing affection for him that mirrored his own feelings. The disruptor between their hands pulsed with increasing intensity. Its glow spread, enveloping them both in a cocoon of light that reminded Jason of the aurora borealis he'd once seen on Earth. The sensation intensified, becoming almost overwhelming, Not just physical attraction, but a profound sense of recognition, as if every cell in his body remembered an ancient connection. It's working. Yuria breathed against his lips. The resonance bond is forming. The glow from the disruptor expanded outward, interfacing with the shuttle systems. Displays flickered, then stabilized, showing new information, access to communication channels that should have been impossible to reach. Now, Yuria said, pulling back just enough to look into his eyes. We have to send the data now. Working together, they directed the resonance energy into the ship's communication array. The tablet containing the evidence of their shared ancestry connected to the disruptor, its data flowing through the amplified signal. On the console, they could see their transmission spreading outward, not just in nearby ships and stations, but to every connected system in Alliance space. The evidence couldn't be contained or denied. The truth of human and Theoran shared ancestry was broadcasting to millions of worlds simultaneously. The Alliance ship suddenly ceased firing. On the view screen, they could see confusion on the bridge as the crew received the transmission along with everyone else. They can't stop it now, Yuria said, a mixture of triumph and wonder in her voice. The resonance is too strong, the signal too widely dispersed. Jason stared at the spreading circles of light on the display, representing the data reaching further and further into space. What happens now? Change, she replied simply. The Alliance will have to acknowledge the truth. Humans can no longer be classified as a developing species to be kept isolated. The barriers between our worlds will fall. As they watched, the Alliance ship began receiving transmissions from multiple sources. Their own superiors, likely, demanding explanations or issuing new orders in light of the revelation. They're breaking off pursuit, Jason observed as the larger vessel changed course. They know it's too late to contain this. Yuria's fingers tightened around his. This is just the beginning. There will be resistance from those who benefited from the old order. But the truth has a power of its own now. With the immediate danger past, they set course for the trading outpost Yuria had identified. As they traveled, the disruptor continued to glow between them, the resonance bond maintaining a connection that felt both ancient and new. The records indicate there may have been others like us throughout history, Yuria said as they monitored the continuing cascade of responses to their broadcast. Human Theoran pairs who discovered partial resonance, but were separated or silenced before they could fully activate it. How many worlds do you think will receive our message? Jason asked. All of them, she replied with certainty. The resonance disruptor was designed to bypass conventional communication barriers. That's why it was so feared by those who wanted to maintain separation between our species. Over the following days, as they made their way to the outpost, they witnessed the beginning of a transformation. Alliance communications were in chaos as officials tried to respond to the flood of questions from their own citizens. Some worlds were calling for immediate human inclusion in Alliance affairs, while others demanded investigations into who had orchestrated the centuries-long deception. When they finally reached the trading outpost, a sprawling space station orbiting a gas giant, they found it buzzing with the news. Humans and Theorans who had previously interacted only formally were engaged in animated conversations, comparing features, sharing stories, examining the newly revealed historical records with fascination. Look at them, Jason said as they walked through the station's main concourse. Yesterday, they were strangers from different worlds. Today, they're discovering their distant cousins. Yuria nodded, her expression thoughtful. The Alliance Council has called an emergency session. Representatives from Earth have been invited to attend for the first time. And what about us? Are we still fugitives? Officially, charges have been suspended pending review, she said, showing him a message on her communicator. Unofficially, we've become symbols of something larger than ourselves. The message included a request for them to appear before a joint Human Theoran Scientific Commission to explain the resonance technology and its implications. The tone was respectful, not demanding, a recognition of their role in exposing the truth. We could refuse, Yuria continued. Find some quiet corner of the galaxy to explore together. She looked up at him, uncertainty in her amber eyes. Unless you wish to return to your former life on Earth. Jason thought about it. His life as a rescue pilot seemed distant now, part of a reality that had fundamentally changed. The resonance bond between them had awakened something that couldn't be abandoned or forgotten. My former life was based on a limited understanding of my place in the universe, he said, taking her hand. I'd rather move forward with the truth and with you. Her lips curved in a smile that transformed her face. Then I suggest we accept their invitation. On our terms. The resonance technology doesn't belong to any one government or species. It's part of our shared heritage. And what about this? Jason asked, gesturing between them. The bond. That's for us to define, she replied. But I think we've only begun to discover what's possible between us. As they stood together at a viewport overlooking the vast swirl of the gas giant below, news continued to flow in from across Alliance space. Protests on some worlds, celebrations on others. Earth's governments were in emergency sessions, absorbing the implications of their sudden elevation in galactic affairs. Theoran scientists were publicly releasing studies they had been forced to suppress, confirming the genetic links between the species. There's something I've been wondering, Jason said as they watched ships arriving from various worlds, many carrying observers or representatives eager to witness the unfolding changes. That first night in the thermal cocoon, did you know then what might happen? That we might form this bond? Yuria considered the question. I suspected the potential was there. The legends of our ancestors spoke of resonance pairs, human and Theoran partners who could access abilities beyond either species alone. But I didn't know if it was true until I felt the first stirrings of the connection. When you offered to share your sleeping bag with me, Jason said with a smile, what happened next wasn't what either of us expected. No, she agreed, returning a smile. It was something much more profound. The beginning of a new chapter not just for us, but for all our kind. Above them, the station's communications array broadcast continuous updates as the shockwaves of their revelation continued to spread. Human ships were being welcomed at Theoran ports for the first time in centuries. Alliance officials who had maintained the deception were facing calls for resignation. And across countless worlds, humans and Theorans were looking at each other with new understanding, recognizing their shared heritage after generations of artificial separation. A message flashed on Yuria's communicator, an invitation to address a gathering of human and Theoran scientists eager to understand the resonance technology. Ready to change the universe again? She asked, her amber eyes bright with anticipation. Jason intertwined his fingers with hers, feeling the resonance bond pulsing between them like a second heartbeat. As long as we do it together. Always, she promised. That's what the resonance truly means. Not just shared ancestry, but shared destiny. Hand in hand, they stepped forward to face whatever came next, pioneers of a connection that spanned stars and species, rewriting history and opening doors to a future neither of them could have imagined when they first shared that thermal cocoon on a frozen world.